Before we start today's video, I want to apologize. Most of the videos I make on here are about mixing or cleaning up existing ideas, but I'm sure there's a handful of you that are on the beginner side. You're excited about music, passionate about how you can use iZotope products in your songs, but you don't have a lot of ideas to apply them to right now. So this is going to be a two-part video. Right now you're watching part 1, how to make a beat 101 from the ground up. We're going to go from the basics all the way to a finished idea. And then in part 2, it's going to be 5 tips on how to make your beats better. So you're going to be able to assess a beat, think about what needs to stay, and then what needs to be reinforced. So without further ado, let's make a beat. For this video, I'm using samples I've made and collected from friends and artists. If you don't have any samples and need a starting point, iZotope's music production suite comes with royalty-free sample packs and presets for all the included plugins. Once you have some downloaded, I suggest making one folder for drums and another for melodies to stay organized. Not every DAW has MIDI functionality, so I'm going to build this idea using audio tracks. To start, I'm going to drag 3 important samples: a kick, snare, and hi-hat. Take some time to label or color code them, and then mute the tracks so you can't hear them. Now when we go to arrange the beat, we can copy and paste the samples we want to use from this audio track, and then paste it along the timeline to create patterns. To start off our beat, I'm going to highlight the snare, hit copy, and then paste it on the grid. Right now my project tempo is set to 154 BPM or beats per minute. Feel free to make your tempo the same as mine or change the speed to your taste. I'm also setting Ableton to loop at the end of the 4th bar, so this is a 4-bar loop. Now that my snare pattern is done, I can highlight them all and adjust the volume to be quieter. I like snappy drums, so I'll use these audio fades to make the snare feel tighter. Since I like this version, I'm going to delete the older ones and copy and paste this new one. Next, we'll make a basic hi-hat pattern by copying and pasting our hi-hat sample along every 8th note. We can use this foundation to build up accent marks. Accent marks in music is when certain notes are stronger or louder than others, creating a groove. Like that. Once again, I'm going to use the audio fades to make this hi-hat snappier, but now I'll leave the 3rd one in the pattern a little longer. If we replace our old pattern with this new one, you'll start to hear a bounce being introduced by the different lengths of the hi-hats. Whenever I add a new sample, I like to play with pitch, length, and timing to see if anything will inspire me. In this case, pitching the hi-hats down felt a little better. Now when we add the kick pattern, you'll hear the accenting in full effect. Just like before, I'm copying and pasting this kick to find a groove that talks to the snare and hi-hat. If you're newer to finding patterns, take this time to copy down what I have on screen. This is my favorite part of production. I have 2 beginner rules for layering. Layers should not be more distracting than your main sound, and they should not be redundant, meaning they should contribute a new texture or feeling. Here I'm using a rustling closet sound to make the snare feel more unique than the others, which will result in more accenting. Layers don't have to be long, just audible enough for the listener to notice. Combining layers gives me more variation to work with. Here's the beat before layering, and now we have even more movement. There is such a thing as too many layers, especially if you're going to have vocals on a track. So make sure to either not use too many layers or mix them down to be quieter than the main parts of the song. Before we add bass, let's drag in a melodic sample and make sure it loops evenly throughout the beat. This is a chord progression I made that I'll explain more about in part 2. Now all we need is the bass. For the 808 pattern, you can find tons of good samples online. I just like to make my own. Bass lines that ignore the groove and melody of the rest of the song will hurt every other element. But fortunately, I have a couple tips on creating a simple, effective bass line. First, pitch up your 808 2 octaves. After we find the right notes, we can pitch it back down. Next, the easiest melody for your bass line to match is the lowest note in whatever chord is playing. My sample has 2 chords. The lowest notes are A flat in the first chord and an A in the second. This means I'm going to have my bass line go from A flat to A. I'm actually just going to copy the patterns of my kicks so the 808s hit every single time a kick starts. Now you can pitch the bass line back down the whole 2 octaves and it'll lock right in. If you're feeling adventurous, try pitching a handful of them back up for some variation. It's also good practice to have some notes at the end of your bass pattern play a new melody so it's not too repetitive. Removing things is good for simplicity, and it can also build up tension for key moments. In Ableton, I can press 0 on my keyboard to deactivate some of the drum samples, making the song feel silent until the next kick. You should experiment with turning some layers off, keeping others on, until your beat is telling its own story. Last minute, I decided this hi-hat was feeling too simple, so I went back in by hand and randomly added some in-between notes to the pattern, so some parts feel faster and more energetic than others. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got something out of that. If you make your first beat from this video, please feel free to tag me in iZotope and we will definitely check it out. Peace.